You know, there are some days where stuff happens that just completely defies the imagination, where something comes down the pipe, a big piece of gaming news that is just so crazy, I would not believe it if I wasn't looking directly at the news itself. So this morning, I've been playing a bunch of the Castlevania collection, having a blast, and I decided to just glance at Twitter, and what do I see? The fact that Sony and Microsoft are officially teaming up. This is not fake, this isn't weirdness, this isn't a Photoshop. It is from the official Microsoft website, and still, even looking at the nitty-gritty details, it's hard for this to actually properly sink in. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and what's really insane about this is that technically, in the past, we have seen some bending of the rules. Like, if you really look at it, technically there have been some Sony games that ended up on Nintendo Switch, but they were actually parts of, like, the Sony music department. And there have been some Microsoft games on PlayStation 4, things like, of course, Minecraft. But we've yet to actually see these two companies fully approach each other and enter into an official partnership until today. Now, what's extra crazy about this is that it says inside of this piece of news that it actually relates to the gaming departments. This is not them talking about working together to make a sweet, smooth jazz album. They're not working on one specific game. They're actually working to make both of their consoles better at extraneous services. So I want to read a little bit of this because it's just so crazy, and honestly, it's pretty full of some PR speak, so I want to try and decode it for you and explain why this really is a very, very big deal. So we're going to start right here, which is about 2 paragraphs down, and it says, under the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the parties, the two companies will explore joint development of future cloud solutions in Microsoft Azure to support their respective game and content streaming services. In addition, the two companies will explore the use of current Microsoft Azure data center-based solutions for Sony's game and content streaming services. By working together, the companies aim to deliver more enhanced entertainment experiences for their worldwide customers. Now, let's start off by just that, because it may seem a little bit complicated if you don't actually understand what these services are. Basically, what they are saying there in their special coded speak is that Microsoft is going to be streaming games onto PS4 consoles, and quite possibly, we could see PS4 stuff streaming on Xbox. That is what this means. It means that they're actually talking about taking some games and putting them on Microsoft servers, that way they can better stream them. Now, this actually has some extra parts to it that we need to figure out. So, like, here I have some just random Sony exclusives. These are PS4 games that are super good, like masterpieces and all that. But what's interesting is these are things that don't stream incredibly well. If you're putting these in something like PlayStation Now as a service, because they are so graphically challenging and so fast, trying to get a very clear data stream of it is complicated. So it sounds to me like one of the things that may be happening is that Microsoft may be, at least to some degree, actually directly taking over parts of PS Now. They may actually start streaming the games for Sony, and we could actually see something where, as part of this partnership, maybe we see these games come to Xbox. Only as a streaming thing, but even still, imagine if PlayStation Now came to Xbox. Now that is craziness. But there is an additional part of this partnership that is perhaps going to cause a bigger effect in the long run, which is the fact that they're talking about working together to improve video game AI. Now let me read this part here. As part of the Memorandum of Understanding, Sony and Microsoft will also explore collaboration in the areas of semiconductors and AI. For semiconductors, this includes potential joint development of new intelligent image sensor solutions. games. By integrating Sony's cutting-edge image sensors with Microsoft's Azure AI technology in a hybrid manner across cloud and edge, as well as solutions that leverage Sony's semiconductors and Microsoft's cloud technology, the companies aim to provide enhanced capabilities for enterprise customers. In terms of AI, the parties will explore incorporation of Microsoft's advanced AI platform and tools in Sony's consumer products to provide highly intuitive and user-friendly AI experiences. Now, that may be a huge mouthful, but what they're freaking saying in technical speak is that they want to make games that are smarter than have ever been done before. Okay, let's face facts for a second. Crackdown 3 was obviously a big exclusive Microsoft game that came out this year, and it had some issues. The biggest one, in my opinion, was the fact that it tried to basically do this experimental thing where cloud-based computing would render a lot of the destructible environments. Instead of just having it where I punch this shelf and everything falls down and it's processed internally, instead the way it worked is, as I was punching this shelf, it would talk to a server, the server would say how many games are falling and at what speed. It's an idea that, in my opinion, is genius, but in actual execution was very, very clunky. Well, what if suddenly we saw the combination of Sony's understanding of creating really good games with the really smart technology that Microsoft is working on? Imagine if we see a true partnership that actually combines both of their strengths. Microsoft on their own has some issues when it comes to hardware, in my opinion. They are predominantly a software people. Microsoft makes most of their money selling Windows and stuff, of course, and creating different stuff for computers, whereas Sony makes most of their bucks now by actually making and selling games and just their consoles themselves. If these two people come together and just start to actually boost each other's skills, to actually collaborate, to actually just sit down at the table of conversation and trade ideas to make it where Microsoft games are better, Xbox One games are even more insane, and PlayStation 5 stuff manages to do physics that were never before thought possible, I am totally on board with this. Now, personally, I do want to enter the realm of speculation. I do think that this is at least partially because of the crazy success of the Nintendo Switch. So just a couple days ago, there was a news report that came out that said that now the Switch has already passed the total sales of the PlayStation 4 in Japan. The Japanese love the Switch. I've heard that over in Japan, people are much more focused on mobile gaming. If you can play on the go, people are much more likely to buy it. So the fact that they have already just soared past one of the most successful consoles ever is a troubling sign, especially to Sony, because they're a Japanese company. I'm sure they're staring at those numbers right now at their headquarters and going, shoot, we need to stop this before the problem escalates. And this really could just be a path out of this situation. Now, it's hard to guess what's really going to happen from here, but I think that this is something that was probably initially instigated by Microsoft themselves. They probably approached them and said, okay, let's see what we can do to try and get ahead of Nintendo. Let's see what we can do to beat the Switch together. They're both about to be unveiling their next console, and I think that Sony, while they are technically missing E3, wants to be talked about. Sony wants to actually be mentioned at a press conference here and there, and of course during things like the Square Enix showcase, they want to make sure that the name PS5 is still on people's lips. And I think that this could be an opportunity to make sure they're mentioned even if they're not physically there in person. This is such a crazy development, and really we won't know what this actually means for probably a year or two, but the fact that they're just so public about what's going down makes me think that their plans are probably very, very freaking big. Could this be a new game? Could this be Halo on a PlayStation 4? Could this mean that Nathan Drake might do a crossover game where he's actually teaming up with people over like Super Lucky's Tale? I mean, we really have no idea right now, but the idea of it just gets me hyped. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh man, I'll be honest, if we start seeing a bunch of Microsoft games on PS4 and PS4 games over on the Xbox One, I might actually do some re-reviews of stuff. I would actually love to see how something like Crackdown 3 or just something like that, maybe like Perfect Dark, how these games run on a PlayStation 4 Pro. It is a crazy time to be alive. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.